What's this? I muttered under my breath, reaching for it with stiff fingers. I shoved the front door open with my shoulder, arms full of the cheap groceries I could still afford. Marcy, I called out, my voice bouncing hollow off the walls. No answer. I kicked the door shut behind me with a loud bang. The house felt wrong, like the soul had been sucked right out of it. Joey, you home, bud? I tried again, setting the bags down with a heavy thud. Still nothing. I wiped my boots off on the cracked mat, heart starting to thump a little faster. It was too quiet. Not just regular quiet, but the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's watching you. And then I saw it. Right there. Center of the kitchen table. An envelope. Just sitting there. With my name on it. Caleb. I took a step closer. The air around me felt like it thickened. The paper was smooth. Heavy. Like a final exam you knew you were about to fail. I ripped it open. Out slid the divorce papers. My brain lagged behind my eyes. No, no, no. I whispered, blinking fast. There was more. A separate typed letter, cold as a tax form, voiding the prenup Marcy and I had signed 6 years ago. And a glossy pamphlet. Silver Creek Shelter. Transitional housing for men in need. Taped to the front was a neon pink sticky note. You served your purpose. Now you're just baggage. I staggered back, my shoulder clipping the edge of the counter. The papers floated to the floor like dead birds. I stood there, breathing like I'd been punched. Then anger, hot and wild, snapped inside me. I yanked my phone from my cracked Carhartt jacket. Hit Marcy's number. 1 ring. 2. Straight to voicemail. Her voice, sweet and fake, chirped. Hi, it's Marcy. Leave a message and maybe I'll get back to you. Beep. Marcy, I said, voice shaking. What the hell is this? Where's Joey? Call me back. Now. I hung up. Tried again. Same thing. I fired off a text, my thumbs shaking so bad I kept hitting the wrong keys. Where are you? Where's Joey? Call me. No read receipt. No reply. I stumbled down the hallway like a drunk, checking every room. Joey's bedroom door swung open with a squeal. The bed was neatly made, too neat. His Batman blanket folded at the foot. His backpack, still hanging from the hook, half-zipped and empty. My chest squeezed so tight I thought I might drop right there. Joey, I choked out. I rushed to the garage, yanked the door open. The sedan, her sedan, was gone. Only my old F-150 sat there, leaning to one side on a half-flat tire. She was gone. Gone, and she'd taken my son with her. A few years ago. Caleb, you're working yourself to death, Marcy said, arms crossed, standing in the tiny kitchen of our old apartment. I'm doing it for us, Marcy. For Joey, I said, setting down my thermos, hands raw from double shifts. She just shook her head, blonde hair swishing. You think busting your back makes you a good husband? I think keeping food on the damn table does, I snapped. She rolled her eyes. Money ain't everything, Caleb. I looked around the peeling linoleum floors. The second-hand couch with the ripped arm. Joey sleeping on a mattress with no bed frame. Maybe not, I said, my voice low. But it sure helps. And now, I slumped against the cold garage wall. I felt like the world was spinning away from me, faster and faster. I looked down at my wallet, somehow still clenched in my hand. Old leather, cracked and faded, just like everything else in my life. Inside, the same 2 photos I'd carried for years. My mother, smiling, young and strong. Joey, 6 years old, missing his front teeth, holding a crayon drawing that said, "My dad is a hero." I clutched the wallet to my chest. And for the first time in years, real, bone-deep years, I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just a slow, broken leaking from somewhere so deep I didn't know I could even reach it. Night had fallen. The truck's cab smelled like old sweat, diesel, and desperation. I sat there in the cold, staring blankly at the diner across the parking lot. Inside, people laughed, drank coffee, lived their stupid, normal lives. I was invisible, forgotten. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. I gave you everything, I said to no one. My nights, my weekends, my health, my heart. And you took it. You took it and spit on it. The seatbelt buckle dug into my hip. I pulled my jacket tighter around me. I thought of Joey, his laugh, his little arms around my neck. The way he used to ask, "Dad, are you going to be a superhero today?" when I left for work. And I thought of Marcy, her smile, fake as a beauty queen's wave, her hands signing the papers while I was out busting my back at Braxton Steelworks. And then it hit me. She planned this. She'd been planning it. Every late night, working late. Every new expensive handbag on sale. Every smile that never reached her eyes anymore. I was never her partner. I was her tool, her stepping stone, a damn pack mule to carry her until she found a better ride. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles popped. You think you broke me, Marcy? I whispered. You think you won? The laugh that came out of me scared even myself. Low, rough, hollow. You took my job, my home, my son, but you forgot one thing. I leaned back, breathing slow. You forgot who you married. You forgot the stubborn son of a gun who won't quit even when his legs are broken. You forgot that you can't kill a man who's already dead inside. And you made me dead inside. The diner windows glowed warm and yellow against the black night. Inside, people laughed over pie and cheap coffee, their voices muffled by the glass. Outside, in my truck, it felt like I was sitting at the bottom of a well. I had nothing but the cracked leather of my father's wallet and a heart that felt like it had been chewed up and spit out. I leaned my head against the steering wheel. My stomach growled, but I ignored it. Food didn't seem important anymore. I checked my phone again. No calls. No texts. Nothing from Marcy. Nothing from Joey. Hell, nothing from anyone. I turned the key halfway. The radio sputtered to life. Old country music drifted out, static-laced. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. I slammed my fist into the dashboard, shutting it off. No kidding, I muttered. The stars above Maple Hollow blinked cold and uncaring. I needed a plan. I couldn't just sit there and rot. But what do you do when everything you built gets ripped out from under you in a single afternoon? 2 years ago, she'd say, Caleb, don't you ever want to be more? She said once, sitting on the back porch, sipping a glass of wine. I was tightening the rusted hinges on the screen door. More than what? She shrugged, looking out over the lawn I'd mowed that morning. I dunno. More than just this. I wiped my hands on a rag and looked at her, really looked at her. Her hair up in a messy knot. Her face tilted toward the sunset like she wanted to drink it in. This, I said, isn't enough for you? She didn't answer. Not really. Just sipped her wine and smiled that tight little smile that never quite reached her eyes. And now that was the first crack. The first hairline fracture in the foundation. But I hadn't wanted to see it. I was a fool. And fools pay for their ignorance. I grabbed my phone again. No calls. No texts. Except something new blinked in the notifications. An email. From an account I didn't recognize. Subject. Thought you should know. Attachment. A photo. I opened it with a thumb that suddenly didn't feel like mine. The photo was grainy, like it had been taken through a window. But there was no mistaking it. Marcy. In a hotel lobby. Standing way too close to a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, slick-looking, expensive clothes, cocky grin. His hand was on her lower back, the same way mine used to be. My thumb hovered over the photo. There was a second one. Them at a hotel bar. Her laughing, throwing her head back like she used to for me. Only this time, she wasn't laughing at my jokes. I swallowed hard, bile rising. I checked the sender again. Anonymous. No reply option. No other information. Just those 2 photos. So that's it, I muttered. You were lining up a replacement the whole damn time. My fingers clenched into fists. You lying, cold-hearted. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel, the horn blaring into the quiet night. Inside the diner, a few people looked up. I didn't care. Let him look. Let him see a man losing everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just dozed, eyes open, mind spinning like a tornado. I kept seeing Marcy's face, blurry through tears. Kept hearing her laugh, but not at me. Kept thinking of Joey. Where was he? Was he safe? Was he scared? Did he even know what was happening? When the gray light of morning crept across the horizon, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to just sit there. I was going to find her. I was going to find my boy. And I was going to make sure she knew she hadn't destroyed me. Not yet. Not even close. Silver Creek Shelter was a squat brick building on the edge of town. The sign out front was half burned out. All are welcome blinking sadly against the morning fog. I walked up the steps, my boots scuffing against cracked concrete. Inside, the air smelled like old coffee, bleach, and 2 mini-men packed too tight. The guy at the front desk looked up. Middle-aged, bald, wearing a faded hoodie. You looking for a bed? He asked, voice scratchy. I nodded. He handed me a clipboard without looking me in the eye. Name. Caleb Rivers. He scribbled it down. ID. I patted my pockets, but of course, I had nothing. Marcy had probably cleaned out the bank account already. Maybe even canceled the cards. Lost it, I said. He grunted. Won't matter if you're just here for the night. First floor's full. You'll be upstairs. 3rd bunk on the left. Thanks, I muttered. He handed me a worn blanket that smelled faintly of mildew. I took it without complaint. The upstairs dorm was a long room lined with metal bunk beds. Most were occupied by men who looked like they'd been chewed up and spit out by life. Some snored. Some stared blankly at the ceiling. Some twitched and muttered in their sleep. I threw my blanket onto an empty top bunk and sat down hard. The mattress sagged like a punctured tire. I leaned back against the wall, pulled out my wallet, opened it to Joey's picture. "I'm coming, buddy," I whispered. "No matter what it takes." The morning at Silver Creek Shelter started before the sun. A bell clanged once, sharp enough to rattle the cheap windows. I groaned and rolled off the top bunk, landing hard on the linoleum floor. Around me, the other men stirred, groaned, cursed quietly. The ones who weren't too broken yet. I pulled on my jacket, the same one with the ripped lining, and stuffed my wallet deep into the inside pocket like it was worth $1 million. It was still dark out when I stepped into the street. Breath clouded around me. The diner across the street, Willie's, was already open, the neon coffee cup in the window buzzing like a wasp. I headed for it. The bell over the door jingled when I pushed inside. Warmth hit me like a punch. Grease, old coffee, cinnamon. It smelled like life. A tired-looking waitress behind the counter nodded at me. "Seat yourself, hon," she said, wiping down a mug. I slid into a booth near the back, where the cracked red vinyl wouldn't show stains. The coffee came without asking. Bitter, black, hot enough to strip paint. I cradled the cup between my hands and stared out the window, trying not to think about Joey. About Marcy. About anything. "Mind if I sit?" The voice came from the booth across from me. I blinked up. A man stood there, late 50s maybe, built like an old boxer, one eye a little lazy, a weathered leather jacket zipped up tight. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile you gave someone before you told them bad news. "Suit yourself," I muttered. He slid into the booth, setting down his own coffee with a thunk. "Name's Conrad," he said. I nodded but said nothing. Conrad didn't seem to mind. "You're Caleb Rivers, right?" I stiffened. "Who's asking?" He took a slow sip of coffee. "Let's just say, I know when a man's been wronged." I narrowed my eyes. "Get to the point." He leaned in slightly. "You're looking for your wife. And your kid." I froze. The coffee cup rattled slightly in my hand. "How do you know that?" He shrugged. "Small towns. People talk. Women talk more." I stared at him hard, trying to figure if he was crazy, dangerous, or just nosy. Probably all three. "And you think you can help me?" "I know where she is," Conrad said. Flat. Simple. Like he was telling me the weather. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And what do you want?" "Money." Conrad laughed, a dry, humorless bark. "If I wanted money, I wouldn't be drinking diner coffee at 6 in the morning, son." I said nothing, just watched him. He tapped his fingers against the ceramic cup. "I want something else," he said. "Something only a man like you can give." "And what's that?" He leaned closer, voice dropping low. "I want to watch a woman like Marcy lose." The way he said her name, like it tasted bad in his mouth, made my skin crawl. "You know her?" "Let's say I know the type," he said. I frowned. "What do you mean, the type?" Conrad's smile disappeared. "Users. Liars. People who take and take until there's nothing left, but that's where a good man used to be." I swallowed. Hard. It felt like he was peeling back my ribs and looking straight at my heart. "You're not the first man she's burned, Caleb." He pulled a crumpled envelope from inside his jacket, slid it across the table. I didn't touch it. "What's this?" "Proof," he said. "Photos. Bank statements. Phone records. How the hell did you get all this?" He shrugged. "Friends in low places." I hesitated, heart thudding. "You said you want something," I said. "What?" Conrad leaned back, sipping his coffee like he had all the time in the world. "I want you to do what you were too good to do before." "And what's that?" "Fight back." Conrad glanced around the diner, making sure no one was listening. Then he lowered his voice to a near whisper. "Marcy didn't just leave you, Caleb." He paused. "She sold you out." "What?" He nodded grimly. "Your father-in-law, Hank Braxton, you think it was just coincidence he fired you the same day she served you papers?" I stared at him, numb. Conrad leaned in. "They set you up. Braxton's been skimming off the company books for years. You were getting too close. Asking too many questions. Marcy knew. She helped him bury it." I shook my head slowly. No, Marcy wouldn't." "She would," Conrad cut in. "She did." He pushed the envelope closer. "Go ahead. Look." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, copies of bank transfers. Marcy's signature. Emails between her and Braxton. Emails. Emails laughing about me. Calling me the mule. The dumb ox. The perfect fall guy. I slammed the envelope shut, heart hammering. You lying son of a... I started, voice thick. But Conrad just sipped his coffee. Calm. Patient. Like he'd seen this reaction 100 times before. The sun was just starting to set, bleeding orange through the leafless trees as I drove out past the city limits. My hands gripped the steering wheel like it might run away if I loosened up. Hank Braxton's house sat like a forgotten monument at the end of Alder Lane. All stone columns and iron gates, pretending to be something noble. The kind of place that tried to look like power lived there. I'd only been there a handful of times, and each visit left me feeling smaller. But tonight, I wasn't coming to shake hands. I was coming for answers. Marcy hadn't been seen in 2 days, and I had reason to believe her trail ended here. Conrad's folder was on the passenger seat beside me, stuffed with printouts, emails, signatures, bank trails, surveillance stills. It might as well have been a coffin. Hers or mine, I didn't know yet. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't taking surprises anymore. Not from anyone. The iron gate to the Braxton estate stood cracked open when I arrived. That's strange, I muttered. I eased the truck forward, gravel crunching under my tires. The house rose in front of me, tall, cold, unlit. It looked abandoned. Wrong. As I passed the hedgerow, my eyes caught movement. A blur. A car, black, sleek, low to the ground, came flying down the long circular driveway from the back. Its headlights were off. Tires spat gravel like bullets. And behind the wheel, Marcy, I said aloud. It was her. I caught her face for half a second through the windshield. Pale, tight, wild-eyed. Then the car shot past me, cutting too close, the side mirror grazing my truck with a metallic scream. Marcy, I yelled, slamming the brake, jumping out. She didn't even slow down, just vanished into the dusk. Gone. Again. I didn't hesitate. I jogged up the front steps and shoved the heavy door open. Braxton, I shouted into the dark. Silence. I stepped inside. The air smelled wrong, not musty, not empty, just sharp, like copper, like blood. The foyer was dim. No lights. Just the dying glow of the setting sun through the tall, arched windows. I moved slow, each step echoing against the marble floor. The house was too still. Even the usual ticking of that oversized grandfather clock in the hall was missing. I called again, louder. Hank, it's Caleb. You home? Nothing. Then, a creak. From the back of the house. I followed it. Through the hallway lined with pretentious oil paintings and into his study. Double wooden doors wide open. The smell hit me before I crossed the threshold. Iron. Metallic. Undeniable. Blood. Hank. I called voice low now. And there he was. Slumped in the high-backed leather chair behind his oversized desk. His head tilted unnaturally to one side. Eyes open. Mouth half agape. A single, neat bullet hole in his forehead. Blood had dried on his temple, dark and crusted, trailing into the collar of his golf shirt. The carpet underneath the chair was soaked black. My body went cold. Jesus. I whispered. I didn't move for a long time. Couldn't. The man who ruined my life was sitting 10 feet away from me dead. And my wife had just peeled out of the driveway like a bat out of hell. Everything around me tilted. What the hell did you do, Marcy? I took a step back, fighting the heat rising in my throat. Did you kill him? My hands started to tremble. Then, I spotted something on the desk. A note. Scrawled in messy, almost panicked handwriting. Just one line. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I scanned the room. The chair was tipped slightly, like it had been turned at the last second. The bottom drawer of the desk hung open. Inside, a gun case. Empty. And next to it, a jewelry box. Familiar. It was Marcy's. The one she always kept locked in the bedroom back when we lived together. I'd asked what was in it once. She told me to mind my business. Well, I was minding it now. I opened the box slowly. Inside, a hotel key card, a burner phone, a thumb drive, and a folded sheet of paper. Flight confirmation. 1 ticket. First class. To Zurich. Booked under an alias. I stared at it. Then at the phone. 5 missed calls. All from the same number. The burner buzzed once in my hand. Unknown number. I answered. Before I could speak, the voice on the other end said, "Did you get the files?" I froze. Who is this? A pause. Then a click. They hung up. I looked back at Hank's body. At the note. At the gun case. My heart started racing again, not out of grief. Out of something darker. Fear. What if she didn't just run? I whispered it into the still air. What if she's setting me up? I looked at the mess around me. My fingerprints were everywhere. front door handle, desk drawer, gun case, my boot prints on the carpet. Marcy knew I'd come looking for her. She knew I'd come here. She wanted me here. My blood turned ice. I staggered back into the hallway. Needed air. Needed to think. But it was already too late. Headlights flooded the front lawn. Red and blue. Sirens. No time. No choices. Just instincts. I ran. Branches whipped against my face as I stumbled into the dark woods behind Braxton's house. The cold bit deep. The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the trees like angry strobe lights. I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Not now. Every instinct in my body screamed. Run. Hide. Survive. I knew the cops wouldn't ask questions when they found Hank Braxton dead. They'd see me, broke, fired, abandoned, and they'd slap the cuffs on faster than I could say set up. And Marcy would be long gone, halfway to Europe by the time they dragged me into a holding cell. I crashed through the underbrush, hard hammering. My breath tore out in painful gasps. Mud sucked at my boots. Twigs tore at my jacket. Still, I kept moving. After what felt like an hour, I stumbled onto an old hunting cabin. One of those abandoned shacks you only find if you're desperate enough to need it. It leaned crooked against a hill, half the windows busted out, roof sagging. It was perfect. I ducked inside, kicking leaves and dirt across my tracks as best I could. Inside, the cabin smelled like rot and mildew. Raccoons had probably used it as a summer home, but it had walls. And right now, that was enough. I collapsed onto the floor, chest heaving. For the first time since this nightmare started, I let the silence press down on me. The ache in my muscles. The burn in my lungs. The roar of my own heartbeat. It was all I could hear. I pulled out my wallet and looked at Joey's photo. The one thing that still felt real. I'm gonna fix this, buddy, I whispered. One way or another. Laying there on that splintered floor, I thought about everything. All the moments I missed because of overtime shifts. The birthdays. The school plays. The late-night talks. I gave it all away thinking I was building something that mattered. And what did I get? A knife in the back. Marcy had never loved me. Not the way I loved her. Not the way I loved Joey. She used me. I was a means to an end. And now I was a loose end she needed cleaned up. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. You picked the wrong man to bury, Marcy, I muttered. You should have finished the job. I pulled out the burner phone I grabbed from Hank's desk. It was still on. One missed message. I opened it. It was short. Deliver the drive. Cash wired after confirmation. Attached was an address. A warehouse on the edge of town. Midland Storage. I stared at it, piecing it together. The thumb drive. The one hidden in Marcy's jewelry box. It wasn't just financial records. It was proof. Proof of Hank's crimes. Proof that could fry half the crooked businessmen in Maple Hollow. And Marcy. She planned to sell it. She was selling Hank out. Selling me out. Selling everyone out. And getting paid to disappear. I had a choice. I could run. Keep hiding. Let them paint me as the murderer. Or I could crash their little deal. Steal back the drive. And rip the whole rotten empire down with me. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. And about Joey. I wasn't letting him grow up thinking his old man was a killer. I wasn't letting him grow up thinking his old man was weak. No. I was going to end this. My way. The hunting cabin had a few rusty tools in the corner. I found an old crowbar. Good enough. I tucked it under my jacket. Checked the burner phone again. Midnight. The deal was scheduled for 1 a.m. I had 1 hour to get there. And one shot to set this right. I stuck to the back roads. No headlights. No noise. Just the crunch of gravel under my boots and the blood pounding in my ears. The town was dead at this hour. Only the lonely buzz of streetlights and the occasional bark of a stray dog. It was like the world had already given up on me. Maybe it had. But I wasn't giving up yet. The warehouse loomed out of the dark like a sleeping giant. Corrugated steel siding, barbed wire fences, big heavy doors. One light was on. A single bulb over a side entrance. I crouched behind a dumpster, watching. 2 men stood by the door. Both wearing dark jackets. Both armed. I could see the bulge of guns under their coats even from here. Marcy wasn't stupid. She brought muscle. I gripped the crowbar tighter. My plan was half-baked at best. But sometimes, you didn't need a good plan. You just needed guts. And a little luck. As I crept closer, keeping low behind stacks of shipping pallets, I caught sight of her. Marcy. Standing inside the open door, illuminated by the overhead light. She was pacing. Nervous. Angry. Holding something in her hand. The thumb drive. And beside her, another man. Not one of the guards. Someone bigger. Meaner. I recognized him. From Conrad's file. Frank DeWitt. Local fixer. Known for cleaning up messy problems for businessmen like Hank. Marcy wasn't just selling Hank out. She was making sure no loose ends survived. Including me. Maybe even including Frank if he pushed her wrong. I watched as she handed him the drive. He opened a laptop, checked the files. Nodded. And then he handed her something. A small black bag. Probably full of cash. Marcy smiled. For the first time in days, she smiled. That cold, brittle smile I used to mistake for love. I crouched there in the shadows, heart pounding against my ribs so hard it hurt. Marcy laughed, a fake, high-pitched little sound, and shook hands with Frank DeWitt. Blood money changed hands. A thumb drive sealed the deal. And somewhere in that transaction, my life officially got stamped, sold for parts. I gripped the crowbar tighter under my jacket. It would have been easy to charge in, to end it right there. But easy wasn't my way. Not anymore. I waited, watched, let the anger simmer low and slow until it wasn't rage anymore. It was something colder, sharper. The two thugs by the door lit cigarettes and joked about something I couldn't hear. Frank closed the laptop, pocketed the drive, and clapped Marcy on the back like they were old pals. Then he walked toward a black SUV idling at the far end of the lot. Marcy stayed behind, pacing, glancing at her watch, waiting for something, or someone. I wasn't about to find out the hard way. I crept closer, using the dumpster and parked vans as cover. The guards were lazy, too sure of themselves. That was their first mistake. I slipped up behind the smaller one, wiry guy, hands buried deep in his jacket pockets. I didn't give him a chance to turn. One hard crack of the crowbar to the side of the head. He went down like a sack of bricks. The bigger one spun around, eyes wide. I didn't hesitate. Slammed the crowbar across his kneecap first, make it hurt, make it last. He howled and dropped, clutching his leg. I swung again, knocking him unconscious. 2 down. Breathing hard, I straightened up. Marcy still hadn't noticed. She was too busy checking her phone, pacing like a cat on a hot tin roof. Good. Let her stay distracted. Let her think she'd won. It would make what came next so much sweeter. I stepped out of the shadows. Looking for someone? I said, voice cutting through the still night air. She froze, phone slipping from her hand. Her head jerked up, and for a split second, just a blink, I saw it. Guilt, shock, fear. Then it was gone, replaced by that familiar, polished, disgustingly calm expression she always wore when she thought she was smarter than everyone else. Well, she said, forcing a smile. Took you long enough. I said nothing. Just walked slowly toward her, crowbar still hanging loose at my side. You set me up, I said. She shrugged like it was no big thing. You set yourself up, Caleb. Always the martyr. Always so easy to manipulate. I stopped a few feet away, staring her down. You framed me for your father's murder. Another shrug. He wasn't supposed to fight back, she said, voice icy. He tried to screw me out of the Zurich deal. I couldn't have that. My hand shook. Not with fear. With restraint. You killed him, I whispered. Marcy rolled her eyes. He was old. It was a mercy, really. You tried to pin it on me. You were convenient, she said, almost laughing. And you were already broken. Nobody would question it. I took a step closer. So what now, Marcy? Run off with your blood money? Change your name? Start over somewhere, Sonny? She smiled sweetly. That was the plan. You think you know everything, I said, watching her carefully. But you missed something. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone. Hit play. The diner. The day before. Conrad's voice, clear as day, recorded and waiting. Marcy Rivers set you up, Caleb. Hank's murder wasn't even the first thing. She's been playing you since day one. Even Joey. The recording crackled. Marcy's face went dead white. Even Joey what? She snapped. I smiled. Slow. Cruel. You thought he was your insurance policy, didn't you? I said. You thought I'd never come after you because of him. She said nothing. You thought wrong. Her hands trembled now. Real fear creeping in. Where's Joey, Marcy? She swallowed. Hard. He's safe, she said. Where? I barked. Not with you. She spat. Never with you. Suddenly, the last piece of the puzzle fell into place. The missing toys at the house. The untouched bed. The lack of Joey's backpack in her car when she fled. She hadn't taken him. She hadn't wanted him. She dumped him somewhere. Pawned him off like used furniture. You never loved him, I said, voice flat. You never loved either of us. She laughed, high, hysterical. Love? Love's for fools like you, Caleb. Joey was an anchor. You were a paycheck. I don't love anyone but myself. I felt something inside me snap. Not rage. Not grief. Just finality. I stepped closer. Marcy backed up, fear flickering in her eyes. You gonna kill me now? She sneered. I smiled coldly. No. I reached down, picked up the burner phone she dropped, and dialed 3 numbers. 911. Emergency services, the operator said. I'd like to report a murder, I said, staring straight into Marcy's eyes. And I have the woman who did it. Marcy fought. She screamed, cried, begged, lied, but it didn't matter. When the sirens wailed into the parking lot, I stepped back with my hands raised. Calm. Marcy didn't look so calm. She looked like exactly what she was. Cornered, broken, exposed. The way she'd left me. As they dragged her away, kicking and cursing, I stood there breathing in the cold night air. I reached into my jacket, pulled out Joey's picture, held it tight. I'm coming, buddy, I whispered. And nothing's gonna stop me now.